You know, every nation has its own epic origin story, but I bet not many of them involve gods descending from the sky, sacred heavenly seals, and a wild test of endurance for a bear and a tiger. In this explainer, we are diving deep into the Dangun myth, the legendary story of how the very first Korean nation came to be. It sounds a little wild, right? Like something straight out of a fantasy novel. But that question, what if a nation began with a bear, is right at the heart of Korea's foundational myth. It's a story that starts way up in the heavens. So, our story kicks off not down here on Earth, but high up in the celestial realm. We've got a sky god named Hwanin, but the real main character of this first part of the story is his son, Hwanung, who had a pretty unique ambition. Just try to imagine it. You're looking down from the heavens, and you feel this deep, powerful pull to go down there and lead the world of mortals. That was Hwanung. He was genuinely fascinated by humanity and wanted to help guide them. And his father, Hwanin, he totally got it. He supported his son's dream. Now, this is absolutely crucial. This wasn't about power or conquest. Hwanin gave his son a guiding principle, Honggek Ingan. It's this beautiful idea of acting for the widespread benefit of all humanity. And this philosophy, it's not just important to the myth, it's still a cornerstone of Korean identity to this day. So, Hwanung doesn't just pop down to Earth by himself. No way. He descends with a huge crew of 3,000 followers. That number really tells you something about the scale and the seriousness of this divine mission. This was a major celestial event. And Hwanung came prepared. I mean, he was fully equipped to rule. He had the 3 heavenly seals, which were basically his symbols of authority. He brought along ministers of wind, rain, and clouds, all the essentials for an agricultural society. He landed on the sacred Mount Taebaek, and right there he founded Sinsi, the city of God. He was all set to go. With the divine city up and running, Hunung's rule begins. But pretty soon, he gets 2 very unusual visitors, and they're about to change the course of history forever. This was the incredible Klee from a bear and a tiger who came before Hwanung. They saw this new world he was building, and they wanted in, not as animals, but as humans. Hwanung, being a benevolent ruler, decides to give them a shot. But it was not going to be easy. So Hwanung lays out this divine trial. And let me tell you, it was a true test of grit and patience. The conditions were intense. They could only eat sacred mugwort and garlic, and they had to stay inside a dark cave, totally cut off from sunlight and the world, for 100 days. The big question was, could they actually do it? Okay, so how did this incredibly tough challenge turn out? The result is what sets up the whole next chapter of our story, as one animal failed completely, while the other achieved something truly miraculous. This is where their paths just completely split. The tiger, well, it was too impatient. It just couldn't handle the grueling conditions, gave up, and bolted from the cave. But the bear was different. It endured. It quietly persevered through all the hunger and the darkness, showing this unbelievable resolve. And here's a pretty surprising twist. The trial was supposed to be for 100 days, right? But the bear's patience paid off way faster than that. After just 21 days, only 3 weeks, the transformation began. And just like that, the bear became human. A woman named Eungnyo, which you can translate as bear woman. She had passed the divine test, and her deepest wish had come true. But her story, believe me, was far from over. All right, now we get to the final act. This is where the divine and the newly human come together to create the founder of an entire nation. So now that she was human, Eungnyo wanted a family. She prayed constantly for a child. And Hwanung, who was moved by her incredible devotion, decided to temporarily take on a human form himself and marry her. This union is so symbolic. It's literally bridging the gap between the heavens and the earth. And their son, he was Dangun Wongyum. He was half god, half human, born from the union of a celestial prince and a transformed bear. This was the one. He was destined to establish the very first kingdom on the Korean peninsula. Dangun's legacy is just immense. According to tradition, he founded his nation, Gojo-san, way back in 2333 BC. And get this, his reign is said to have lasted for an incredible 1,500 years. After all that, his story comes full circle.
he ascends and becomes a mountain god, completing this amazing journey from divine descendant to earthly king and finally back to a spirit of nature.
Oh, and just a quick but important side note on the name. Dangun originally called his kingdom Joseon. The reason we now call it Go-Joseon is because the Go means ancient. It was added much, much later just to distinguish it from a different Korean dynasty that was also called Joseon. So just a little historical clarification for you there. And that leaves us with this big question. The Dangun myth is so much more than just a cool story about gods and bears. It's the carrier of a core philosophy, that whole Hongik Ingan idea. And it's the starting point for a national identity that stretches back for thousands of years, one that's rooted in this idea of divine kindness and earthly perseverance. It reminds us that the myths we tell ourselves aren't just stories about where we came from, they are powerful blueprints for who we want to be.